Two more things I got to get off my chest, and I'm going to be done real quick. I don't want to see none of those players dancing for TikTok before the games until you beat Michigan again. I've been seeing y'all dancing on the field. I'm sick and tired of it. I know I sound like an old dude. Stop doing that. And I do not want to hear another quarterback. C.J. Stroud said it, and Kyle McCord said it, that say it's just another game. It's not. So stop saying that.
Don't you love to see it? Sometimes the truth hurts, folks. Sometimes the truth hurts. Welcome into Red Corner, Blue Corner. I'm Jake Putt. He's Joshua Perry.
Yep.
JP, how was your night after you spoke the truth?
Well, that thing ended up popping off on social media once the clip got posted. I think we got over 1.5 million views on that. The people were very interested in the content. There were a lot of people who agreed with the sentiment there. I think that folks are tired of seeing Instagram dances before games. It feels very unserious. I think that a lot of people were turned off by what Kyle McCord said. You know, it's just a football game. I don't think that sits right with a lot of people. Certainly doesn't sit right with me. I've had that confirmed. I also had some people that were like, oh, JP, you took the comments out of context. Oh, JP, you know that's not what he meant. And I think y'all were reading into what I said. Because the thing that I said is I don't want to hear that, right? And you guys are taking that as they're not working as hard, they're not taking it as seriously, they're not putting in whatever the emphasis is. I don't believe that. What I don't think that they're doing is leaning into the pressure that comes with a game like this. Because Kyle said, we know the magnitude of this game, but it's just a football game. Mm-hmm. And I disagree with that from the standpoint of Michigan, they're leaning into the fact that they can apply pressure. Mm-hmm. When we were winning at Ohio State, and some of you will tell me that we played against some bad Michigan teams, I will also tell you that as a 4.5-point dog in a conference championship game, we won by 59 points. I will also tell you that we never lost as an underdog while I was at Ohio State. I will also tell you that we never lost a true road game while I was at Ohio State. So we beat some pretty good damn teams out there too. The point that I'm trying to get out here is we leaned into what it meant to us to be in that game. We leaned into the pressure. We didn't try to back away from it. And I think these guys are putting in the work, but when it comes time to address the pressure that comes along with the rivalry, I think they're struggling to deal with that, and they got to face it head on.
And it's a fine line, really, too, right? Because you could say, oh, well, it's not what he meant. Well, I can just tell you from a Michigan perspective, we don't care the intention of the message. We don't care the intention of the message. We hear that, and you look at the locker room and say, guys, we got him. Means more up here. Means everything to us. I hear Michigan players saying our season means nothing if we lose this game.
Wow.
That's a different message, regardless of the intention behind it. And in a game that's razor tight like this, maybe it does matter, JP.
Yeah, I think it does. I really do. And I think that there is a psychology to this game. And this is not specific to the game. It's in a lot of big games. I was in South Bend talking to Marcus Freeman before Notre Dame took on Ohio State. And I asked him a question about beating Ohio State and potentially being a team that could make a run at a national title this year. And his response to me was, it doesn't matter. And I thought it was a very interesting thing to hear a head coach say, because he was telling his locker room the same thing. Oh, it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter if we win a championship because we're trying to reach our potential. And I think that is a coach trying to decrease anxiety among their players, because young people right now, they sometimes struggle because maybe they haven't been put in the adverse situations. First day I walked on campus when I was at Ohio State, and I know, Jake, you had a very similar situation, was nothing but adversity. They made me want to quit the game of football, but I stuck with it. And I learned how to rise up in the face of that type of adversity. And I think these cats right now, they're struggling with it. And it's not just at Ohio State, it's at other places too.
This is the thing about this, because you're exactly right. I think we are trying to protect young people at some level, but we're doing it all virtually the same way, which is, let's make sure everyone's comfortable, because if you're uncomfortable, that can be bad. And what if the exact opposite is true? Like I've always said, how do you make someone more comfortable? What if it isn't by adding more comfort? What if it's by increasing your tolerance for discomfort, right? How about that? It's all relative. What if you said, guys, you've prepared for this. We've prepared for this. Our plan is in place. Lay it all on the line this weekend. I don't know what happens. I don't know if we win or we lose. I know what can tell you. It's a good team we're playing. But just leave it all on the field, and you're going to be okay regardless of the result, because we're in this together. It's the same message, right? We're going to let you know, hey, you're going to be okay. You'll be okay. but it's a different approach. It's a little bit more aggressive. It's a little bit more saying, guess what? We trust you that you're a warrior, that you can get this done. If you fail, you pick yourself up, and you move back on. To me, it's the same message, right? But
yeah, it's a
different approach.
I feel like there are a lot of guys right now that they're trying to hedge against the negative result. And I think it's human nature to be able to do that. I think that there are a lot of things in the game of football that go against human nature. Running full speed into a 300-pound man goes against human nature. Like you're running down on special teams and you're coming through that alley and you don't know if you're going to get blindside blocked. That's against human nature to run down there full speed and execute your job. And so I think that we have to deprogram people for what their nature is. And you're going to live with the result. But I'll tell you right now, the pain that comes with losing a big game, with losing an opportunity to compete for a championship, much worse than the pain that comes with just like leaning into the pressure that's ahead of you.
Yeah, you hedge against a negative result. There's what Coach Harbaugh said, the turning point of the program in 2020? He said, we're going to beat Ohio State or we're going to die trying.
I was talking to
you know what I mean?
I know. Our producer's trying to hurry us along there. It's interesting you say that because I have a teammate, Tyvis Powell, who I played with at Ohio State. He got the interception in 2013 to seal the game. And he said he would die for that rivalry, right? Mm-hmm. I think those two things sound very different than just a game.
Yeah.
But
you're protected either way, in your own way. But speaking of Harbaugh, let's talk about it because just like you and me, JP, it does mean more to some people. Michigan coach Harbaugh, however, thinks all the vitriol and the hatred in this rivalry is driven by the media.
Oh boy.
So let's just take a listen to what Coach Harbaugh had to say.
I think that is very manufactured for the TV show that people want to watch and see, but it's not healthy. It's not healthy for the student athletes on either side when you're trying to put that much. Somebody's practically, thinking that it's life or death. So, not telling you what to do or how to do it, but I would say it's not healthy.
I agree with the idea that it's not healthy. I don't think any of us decided to play the game of football with thinking that health was the most important thing to us. He was just talking about the life or death thing, and I think that there are guys in his locker room who would say it's life and death, and there are certainly guys in the Ohio State locker room that feel that way. But the idea that the vitriol and the hate is manufactured by the media, I think is untrue. And former players that are not in the media as well as I do, and you know how they feel about this rivalry as well as I do. You know people who never went to either one of these schools but are fans of these programs and how they feel about the rivalry. I do as well. And we also had the coaches of either one of these programs, in Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh, about this time last week. They were asked by members of the media how they respect one another, and both of them decided to skirt the question. Didn't even address it with the old filler line, got a lot of admiration for that program, hope we can beat them on Saturday. They talked about completely different things that didn't even address the question. The hate is not manufactured. The reason this game is what it is because all of this is real.
Yeah, so it's not healthy. You're exactly right. It probably isn't healthy, right? Like it definitely, like when you think about health, like no, that's not healthy. That's okay though. Let's acknowledge both are true, right? The hate being manufactured, sure, media does play some level into this, and like, hey, what that leads to is a high when you win and a frustratingly low loss when you lose. My whole point is those things are related, right? Like to feel the joy of victory. I never got to beat Ohio State. I know the low part, the pain of loss. But I also am a realist to say the pain I felt was equal, the negativity of the pain I felt was equal to the joy of the victory for my opponent. And you have to risk that. I don't want a safe and comfortable life in this box protected by anything. Because I understand that in order to get something, I have to give something up. In order to feel joy, I have to risk pain. In order to invest in my retirement counts, I have to risk some negative years.
Sure.
All this is related. It's the law of nature. It's just the law of nature. Let's just live in reality and acknowledge the truth that you will have very tough days in sports, in football, in rivalries you will experience joyous days as well. If you want to eliminate the tough days, you'll eliminate the joyous days as well.
I want to pull that comment that we had from Mark Carman back up. I thought it was a really good one while Jake was explaining, which I love what you talk about, is as high as I felt after that game, you felt just the same way on the low side. But Mark says the hate isn't manufactured by the media. It's manufactured in my soul. I agree wholeheartedly.
Look, you and I have been graduated and moved on, and we're both, professional members of the media. I had a game to call at 3:30 that afternoon, so that game kicks off at 12. There was movement going on around me that I was completely unaware of because all my senses were locked into that game. Zach Sinner goes down and gets injured, and it was deep into my heart, I felt that pain. The final drive, I'm sitting down in the booth. We saw the picture yesterday, just fully engaged. That's soul. You know what I mean? That's where it's part of your DNA. And we'll be unbiased. We'll talk about the truth of the game. But when it comes to the on-field play, if you've been in it, if you're part of it as a fan base, it is absolutely part of your soul.
I just want to get back to that comment. It just went away, but I believe Ken Kenyon said something to the effect of the kids are being used by the media for some reality show. And I love to talk about sports as the best version of reality TV because I'm a reality TV fan. I also do not think that anybody on that field is necessarily being used in that sense. I think that these cats all feel the way that they need to feel about this game. There's nobody being used in that sense.
When you hear this comment, if you say kids are being used, that means we can't talk about them when they do good. You realize that, right? They're not just being used when it's bad. You want to eliminate being used by your definition? Then we won't talk about football at all, right? It's not you can't just eliminate the bad and keep the good. It's not reality. You're being used for both directions. We're just talking about the reality of the game.
I love the air quotes there. This has been a fun way to kick off Red Corner, Blue Corner today, but we're going to take our first break. And coming up on the other side, we'll talk about the other team up north in Michigan State, and they have a new coach in place. We'll tell you why Jonathan Smith has already lost a 4-star QB prospect before he was even introduced. That's coming up next.
I think Michigan State's a place where you can develop. Michigan State's not just diving into a team meeting yesterday, diving into the idea of being a program of substance on and off the field, a program where we're going to dive into lives and beyond just being able to teach them how to be in the deep third in coverage or want to run a 15-yard in route. We want to be a place of substance on and off the field.
All right, welcome back to Red Corner, Blue Corner. That was new Michigan State coach Jonathan Smith coming over from Oregon State. Now, he was 34-35 in 6 years there, but the last 2 seasons have been really good for him. 8-4 this year, 10-3 a season ago. He's a guy who is out there on the West Coast, right? Like, doesn't really have any natural Big Ten ties. There's 2 ways to think about this. There is the disadvantage of having to create new inroads in the Midwest and to have to learn the high schools and the coaches and to recruit the programs. But the other side about it is he also is very familiar with 4 of the new teams that are coming in, probably got a leg up on some of the other coaches here. So how big of an advantage or a disadvantage do you think that really is coming into Michigan State?
I don't know that I think you just are or you aren't, period. You know, like you are the man for the job or you aren't, right? So I look at the other things, and I think that's the indicator. And let me just go back through. He said Michigan State is a program where we can develop. Yep. Let's look at how he got to Oregon State. Here's his recruiting classes starting in 2020. 50th best in the nation, 2020, very average. 2021, 87th best. Ooh. That's not good. 69th best in 2022, 52nd best this year. So his team that went 10-3 was done on the backs of bottom half recruiting classes. I look at D'Antonio, some of his better teams were done with average, never was he the number 1 recruiting class in the Big Ten, right. But he developed well. No one leveraged disrespect in his locker room as good as D'Antonio. Ooh. That's Oregon State to me, right? We talked about it yesterday. You're the second fiddle in your home state. That's a principle here because Michigan's first off the bus in the state of Michigan. That's so right. To me, that's the stuff that matters, JP.
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought up the recruiting class numbers, and I'm glad you did because I think that he would be able to recruit better classes at Michigan State than you can at Oregon State, and he's still a guy who can develop. So imagine getting a more talent in just to start, and you're a guy who has an emphasis on developing that talent. I think it really works out well for him. I think one of the things that he's up against right now, though, is the transfer portal window. And it's opened up, and Caden Hauser, who's starting quarterback there, said that he's out. Sam Levitt, who's a 4-star freshman, is like, man, I didn't get recruited by him when he was out there at Oregon State. I'm not going to hang around here. Portal works both ways. You and I know that. You got guys coming out, you got guys coming in. How big of a tool, or I guess, how much does this work against him right now?
Some good, some bad, right? Like we'll see where he's at when the dust settles. That's the challenge of this right now. We'll see. A lot of this portal specifically relies on NIL, right? So I know Michigan State has some excellent wealthy donors. I look at the comment here made by Sam Levitt, and he mentioned it, right? He felt a little bit disrespected that he wasn't recruited. And frankly, to me, I say, hey, for Sam Levitt, what if you said, Coach, I'm going to prove you wrong, and you stuck to it? That's the other side of this, JP.
That's the side that I really like the most, so we'll see what happens there. But we're going to take our final break right here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. Now, on the other side, you know what time it is. It's time for our conference clash. We'll be talking to our guys from Rivals Down South. Certainly won't want to miss that. That's after the break. right here, red corner, blue corner on Stadium. Jake Butt, Joshua Perry. We're bringing in our guys from Rivals Down South. We got T-Bob Hebert, AJ McCarron. One of the things that we want to talk about real quick, and I know this is a little bit outside of y'all wheelhouse, but the all-conference defensive teams came out in the Big Ten. Johnny Newton got Defensive Player of the Year. Jake Butt, where you at on that?
Congratulations to him, man. First off, he's a phenomenal player. He disrupts the game. I don't think it would not have been my pick. It would not have been my pick.
So
to be honest with you. I'm okay with it.
You're a Jay Higgins guy?
I would have went with Jay Higgins.
I'm with you. Johnny Newton, though, the way that I watched him play this year, there are some moments that I cannot erase out of my mind, so I'm fine with it. Before we get to a larger discussion about players nationally, Mike Sainristil and Denzel Burke were not consensus first-team guys, and Tyler Nubin was. I love Tyler Nubin, but those are two of the best players on any football field any given Saturday for me.
Yeah. The issue for Nubin is he, and it was part of the defense as a whole, is he was out of position trying to make plays to help his team, but that also cost his team at times, and I think that has to be factored into it, whereas, I look at Sainristil, and he did the exact opposite of that, always in the right place, and Denzel Burke, everything we asked him to do this offseason, he did. He took that stride back and was one of the best corners throughout the conference. I don't know, JP. You tell me.
No, I mean, I'm definitely there with you. Now, I wanted to expand this out now, get a little national perspective here, and talk a little Heisman. Jalen Milroe had the ridiculous play at the end of the game in the Iron Bowl. I absolutely loved it. But I also thought that he was a little bit over the top afterward. The emotion got the best of him, talking about give me the effing Heisman now. And I think he has been sensational at times. I also would not say he's the most outstanding player in the country, but let's do Heisman ballots. I mean, we're filling them out right now, guys. Who would you have on your ballot? We'll start with T-Bob.
Boys. I mean, look. Is this really a conversation? Like, is it a conversation? I don't. It's Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is clearly the best player in the country this season, and it doesn't matter how you slice stat padding, because he clearly has the best statistics. We'll go filter his stats just against Power 5 opponents. Looked at his strength of schedule, which no matter which way you want to split strength of schedule, whichever analytical system you want to filter it through, he played a clearly harder schedule than did Bo Nix, than did Michael Penix. And he put up better numbers in every single way than those guys did. He accounted for 1,000 more total yards than both of them. He accounted for more total touchdowns than both of them, 15 more than Penix, 7 more than Nix. Higher yards per attempt, led the country in yards per attempt on the ground, 10.7 yards per play. Are you kidding me? Passer rating, QBR, 90 plays of 20 yards or more to 62 and 48. An NFL passer rating of 146 on throws of 20 yards. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's just not even close. It's Jayden Daniels. He should win the Heisman. I don't know that he will, because he's not going to be on the stage this weekend, but he should.
AJ, what you got?
Yeah. Listen, I'm with T-Bob, and I love Jalen Milroe. He's gotten better throughout the year, but he definitely let the emotion side get the best of him after that game, because it's not. There's no way you put him on the ballot, and but it's definitely Jayden Daniels. He's the best player in the country this year. His numbers speak for themselves, and I think he's got to win it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there with you guys. Like this whole idea of having a Heisman moment, I think if the totality of your work looks like what Jayden Daniels has done, then I don't give a damn about a moment. Like he has been sensational. Like he's been so good this year. And I get people saying Bo Nix too, because I watch that guy and he's sensational. But you brought up something, T-Bob, that I do want to impress upon once again, because you mentioned that people are talking about, well, Jayden Daniels in garbage time put up some of these stats. Nobody was saying that when Bo Nix was out here playing Portland State, and they put up like 80 however many points they 81. Put up on him. And he threw a ton of passes in that game. People are not talking about that. It's like, oh, Jayden Daniels, he's just padding stats. Brother, they had the same amount of attempts in garbage games. Like, let's not do this right now.
Well, I would also say this. The thing that I keep going back to is strength of schedule, because if you want to ding Jaden Daniels for being on a team that has 3 losses, that's fine. Now, you don't even have to engage with the nuance of like actually looking at his averages in those games, which are astounding, and the defense was just awful. He played 4 top 10 teams, or top 10-ish, however you want to say it, on the road. He goes 1-3 in those games. Bo Nix played 1. He went 0-1. Only the difference is when Oregon lost to Washington, it was in a lot of ways because of Bo Nix. Like, the defense set Oregon up to win that game, and Bo Nix didn't make the plays that he needed to. You cannot say the same about Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Like, it's not his fault that he doesn't play on the defensive side of the ball.
All right, you know that means it's time for little rivals down south. And boys, okay, so we're all in agreement. We'll see what ends up happening this weekend. Will go a long way towards determining what ends up happening with the Heisman. Bo Nix still the odds-on favorite, but God, Jaden's stats are overwhelming. Let's talk CFP. We're getting new college football playoff rankings tonight, and there's a ton of different ways that this could go. We discussed this a bit yesterday, but AJ, I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's say Florida State wins. A Florida State without Jordan Travis, they beat Louisville, they're undefeated. Let's say you have Alabama win, okay? And so all of a sudden, you've got a 1-loss Alabama SEC champ, a 1-loss UGA, not champ, but still 1 loss, and we all know about Georgia. And let's say you have a 1-loss Texas Big 12 champ. Do you put Florida State without Jordan Travis in above those teams?
No, I don't. Listen, and I'm all for, the work that Florida State has done all year, but you could clearly tell in that Florida game that not the same team, without him. So I think the biggest question is, all right, that people argue is it Texas or is it Alabama? I think Georgia stays in it, even if they lose, because of the work they've done throughout the entire season. And if they do lose, they lose to an Alabama team that has gotten tremendously better throughout the season as well, right? And so I think if Bama does beat Georgia, you end up with 2 SEC schools back in the college football playoff this year. And I think Texas is the odd man out, even though I see them beating Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship, but beating a team that you're already ranked higher than in the standings doesn't compare to beating, Bama beating the #1 team in the country in the SEC championship.
Joshua, how would you feel? So let's take Florida State out of the equation. Okay. Let's say you got SEC champion Bama, Big 12 champion Texas, both with 1 loss. Obviously, Texas having the head-to-head. Joshua, who would you put in?
I don't know how you're going to leave the SEC champ out, right? Like that, It feels crazy to me that the champion of that conference would be left out of the college football playoff. And I know people like going back to the head-to-head, and I'm there for it. I think the games are played for a reason. I also think that holding a thing that happened in week 2 over somebody's head in week 14 is a little bit ridiculous at this point. If we can quantify how much better a team has gotten. And the way to do that for me is that if Alabama were to beat Georgia, they would have the best victory in the country on the season. Period. It's better than Texas beating Alabama. Is Alabama beating Georgia?
Yeah. Off of that too, because if that's the conversation we're having, we're acknowledging that Florida State has changed as a team without their quarterback, right? So if we're going to have that conversation, we're acknowledging that, hey, Florida State doesn't have their quarterback. They're a different team. So using that principle, we can then acknowledge that Bama is a different team than they were when they played Texas. And then you go right to that logic that Joshua said. They would have the best win in college football, where the stakes are as high as they get. Georgia knows they have to win this game to avoid any drama. They know they have to be at their best. Bama would then have beaten them at their best. Florida State would be left out, and I think you have 2 SEC teams in the playoffs.
Joshua Gustafson, what do we do if Oregon beats Washington? I think Oregon's clearly in. Their ranking throughout the entire year has told you as much.
Yep.
Washington, I don't think has any hope of getting in as a 1-loss team. Like whether or not you agree with it, whether you think that's right or wrong. It kind of feels like everybody's just waiting to close the door on Washington. I mean, even Vegas opened this thing up, I think, at like an 8-point favorite. I think it's gotten bet all the way up to 9 maybe now. Like, everybody and their mom expects I think the Ducks to take care of the Huskies this weekend. But watch out for Kalen DeBoer. We can talk about that later. Hey, Jake, does Michigan get in after Iowa beats him this weekend? What? Laughter?
Yeah, no, I mean that one. If they lose that one, man, that'd be a tough one. But I don't know that anyone has that one. That's going to be a real. That's almost impossible for me to wrap my head around.
How to answer the damn question.
I don't even know if I can fully wrap my head around that possibility.
Michigan would have to keep their defense on the sidelines, and Iowa would still find a way to not score.
They would turn it over to themselves.
Well, they don't want to score.
I don't know how Iowa scores more than 10 points.
What about who is better? This comes from Matt Goldman in the chat, Joshua. Texas or Ohio State?
Man, it's a hard one for me. Where Texas is right now, I think that they've taken steps back a little bit and, had some flukier performances down the line. I know some of that was without Quinn Ewers, so I want to try to be fair there. But going to Ann Arbor, playing as conservative as they did, and that was still a 6-point football game, I think Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country still. I'm also going to be the guy to tell you that they don't deserve to be in the college football playoff over a Texas team if Texas wins the conference championship. Plain and clear.
I think. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I want to tell you how Washington gets in if they lose. Okay, so let's say Georgia wins, they're in. Bama's eliminated. Okay, Michigan wins, they're in. Oregon wins, they're in, right? So then you have, we've eliminated Bama. If Texas loses, we eliminate them. If Florida State loses, we'd eliminate them. Yep. Washington would then be in, so they would need some help to lose, from other teams to lose and still get in.
You think it would be Washington, or you think they put Ohio State in there?
I honestly, for the same reason you just said, I'm giving credit to Washington for making it for their conference title game. And you beat Oregon already earlier in the season.
Sure.
Yeah, it's true. Either way, this is going to be, look, this thing always gets more exciting as it comes here to a finish. It's the last time they're going to see the 4-team varietal of this. Boys, y'all take it easy. Red corner, blue corner, we love you. Right now, it's time to talk some SEC. We got AJ McCarron on, which means we got to talk about the nightmare in Jordan-Hare. 10 years removed from the kick six. Look at Isaiah Bond back in the end zone. Look at just the utter WTF in the eyes of the Auburn defender. AJ, what does that picture do for you?
Well, I mean, it puts Bama in the SEC championship. That's about it. Listen,
a little lead in the pencil.
I mean, for me, it's it definitely helps that we got them back, especially being there, especially to the kick six that we've been hearing about for 10 years now. But it was a huge win, and it kept the hopes alive for Bama, and now they got to go out and prove it against Georgia.
Okay, now this is interesting here, AJ, because I was expecting maybe a little more elation, right? Because when you look at a game like that, there's one of two ways you could go with it. You could say, okay, there's an Auburn team that just got blown out by New Mexico State, and yet here you are in a battle with them. Or you're like, look, you found a way to win when you didn't, and that means more to me. Are you more bullish? Like, are you feeling better about the Tide after last week? Or are you feeling worse going into Georgia?
I'm actually feeling worse. Listen, like the thing that scares me is because Auburn hasn't been able to throw the football all season, right? Peyton Thorne was, I think, he was 5 of 16 passing for 90-something yards, 91 yards. He turned the ball over twice. He threw 2 interceptions. And it still came down to, like, if you win the turnover battle, especially if he throws 2 picks, and he's 5 of 16 passing. The scariest part of it, though, is what Auburn rushed for. Like, you know they're going to rush the ball. That's all they can do. That's all they've been able to do all season long. and you still struggle to stop the run. Like, as a team, Auburn carried the ball 42 times, averaged 5.8 yards per carry, and rushed for 244 yards. And you know that. You know they can't throw the ball. That's the scariest part for Alabama coming into this Georgia game, right? Because now you're facing a team that can throw the ball, that can run the ball for sure, and is going to line up and play smash mouth football and say, listen, we're going to, on first and second down, we're going to get in the I formation, and we are going to be straight downhill runs right into your teeth. And can you stop it? And Bama showed that they couldn't stop the run last week. So what all of a sudden changes into this week? And I know the schemes are going to be different, right? The offensive scheme for Auburn is completely different from the offensive scheme from Georgia. So that also helps Bama in a way. But still, like, if it makes me worry as an Alabama fan that, you know, how are we going to be able to stop this rushing attack that Georgia's about to bring?
Well, and look, we'll continue to talk Alabama, Georgia, because there's a ton of different ways that you could break this game down. Real quick, did y'all practice that Gravedigger play when you were there, AJ, at the end of the week?
Oh, yeah, Every been around. Friday, it's been around. Every Friday, you have it's been called Gravedigger forever. They ran it a little different from what we ran it. We used to have it in like a 4x1 or 3x1 formation, and everybody would take off. And so the single guy over to the left is running across the field, and the one outside guy from the right, from the three-man side, is taking off across the field this way. So they just ran it a little bit different, but yes, it's been the same play call. We just never had to run it.
Damn, dude. Nick Saban's been doing this for over 10 years, guys. Probably 50, probably all the way back to LSU. He's like Batman. He's always got a plan. And here it was. Finally, the moment shows up, and it freaking works. Wouldn't you know, dude? All right. When we get back, let's dive into Alabama, Georgia, SEC Championship in Atlanta. It does not get better. Get your comments in the chat, youtube.com/watchstadium. More rivals on the other side. Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South. Where if you want to get involved, a couple of ways you can do it. WatchStadium.com/submit. Give us your video takes, or YouTube.com/WatchStadium, like Fonz Fonzarelli did. He says, man, I was so sick seeing that damn 4th and 30 touchdown. How can you let that happen? And I'm not even an Auburn fan. Yeah, look, that's a loss that'll ruin Christmas. I talked about this in my morning show today. There's nothing I look forward to more every Thanksgiving than making Thanksgiving gumbo, right? It's like one of the greatest treats in the world. Well, last night I was doing it, and I burnt the roux, and I ruined Thanksgiving gumbo. And it's ruined my week. It feels a bit like that loss in Jordan-Hare. But unlike Auburn, I'll be able to come back this Christmas season and try to get it right. And I'm damn sure going to do it, dude. Never again. I had a lot of self-talk in the mirror last night. Let's talk Georgia-Alabama this weekend, SEC championship. I talked to David Pollack earlier today, AJ, and he told me that he thinks the difference in this game is that Georgia clearly has the coaching advantage, that Kirby Smart has passed Nick Saban up. Interesting, given that Alabama's won 7 of the last 8 in this series, and probably the wildest stat of all time, Kirby Smart has more national championships than he does wins over Nick Saban. Are we crowning Kirby a bit early on here?
Well, I mean, listen, Kirby Smart's an unbelievable coach. I mean, he's a top 3 coach in the country by far. I don't know from a David Pollack just saying that the coaching staff has just surpassed what Alabama has. You're also talking to a Georgia guy that will go to the grave for the University of Georgia. So
true. Couple of Bengals as well. Just a couple of Bengals chopping it up. Pollack and McCarron, Alabama, Georgia.
Listen. I think what gives Georgia, the slight edge in this game is just they've had to play as the number 1 or number 2 team in the country all season long. Like you're getting everybody's best game, right? Almost every week, especially earlier in the season, every game was built up against them to possibly have an upset alert. Kentucky was supposed to be a tough game. Missouri was supposed to be a tough game. Like they've had multiple games where it's like, okay, well, this is a week where Georgia, I don't think they get it done, or they could possibly, slip up right here, and they haven't done that. And Carson Beck has gotten tremendously better throughout the season, taking care of the football. Their rushing attack with Milton is unreal, and they're still old school, which I still love to see. Like they're still a pro-style offense. Hey, we're going to line up. We're going to run downhill, hit you with downhill runs. We're going to have double teams on your D-line, and then we're going to hit you with some play-action passing. And if we need to, we'll get in the gun and throw up some good concepts and carve you up that way. That's the scary part for Alabama, I think, going into this game, especially showing what they did as a defense against an Auburn team, an Auburn offense that can't throw the ball at all. Literally, like it routes on air would be a question if they're going to complete it or not. And you still allowed for Auburn to rush for 244 yards. That's an issue for me.
Yeah, the gap between Peyton Thorne and Carson Beck is Grand Canyon sized. I want to get to comment from Nolan, but first though, AJ, but I mean, okay, look, God, I can't believe what a weird place life leads you to defend Alabama a bit here. That was a massive look ahead spot, right? You got the Taliban magic of Jordan-Hare. How could you look ahead from the Iron Bowl? Because they just got their ass kicked by New Mexico State, and Peyton Thorne's a quarterback. And you got UGA and Kirby on the other side, right? Like, so I'm not actually carrying too much from last week into this week if I'm the Tide. We mentioned the 7 of 8 stat. Nolan Hawley saying that may slant the thought to a Bama win, but remember that Alabama has not quite been Bama these last 2 to 3 years. So that's where I guess he's not wrong in a way, but even last year's odd. What? I mean, you're a 2-point conversion away from LSU from being right back in the SEC championship against Georgia. You lose on a last-second field goal to Tennessee. Like, yes, judged maybe against the perfection of Alabama past, but it's still going to be a battle, I would say, this Saturday. What does Nick Saban do? Like, what has given him the edge in these big games for so long? Because I've been on the receiving end of it. I played in the national championship against that man, and we didn't stand a snowball's chance in hell. It felt like we started so far behind the 8 ball compared to y'all's preparation. What does Nick Saban do?
Well, listen, I don't think it's, him doing anything. It's really other than him just saying, hey, we're going to go out and focus this week on what we need to do in the process it takes to win. Don't worry about the end result. Focus on play by play. He has a famous saying, every play has a history and a life of its own, right? Wow. Focus on that play. And don't worry about, hey, are we going to have enough points in the end? Because if you just do what you're coached to do it at the, at the level that you can play at, because you have the best players in the country, you're going to be fine. You're going to give yourself a chance to win the game in the end. So I don't think it's anything special. It's just focusing on your job and the task at hand.
See, but that is something that's built into the process from the ground up, right? Like, it's obviously not a thought that starts that week. It's so funny too how these cliches are echoed by so many great players or coaches. I mean, for me growing up, my old man, he always called it one snap and clear, right? That's it. One snap and clear. I don't care if you did good the last play. I don't care if you did bad the last play. All that matters is the next play. And quite frankly, like, that's a philosophy for life. Like, not letting whatever just being present, not being results oriented, right? Because when you're results oriented, you fear failure, right? When you're just worried about the moment, the fight, what do I need to do to be successful right now? That's when you succeed. Now, what's crazy about Saturday is both Kirby and Nick have instilled that into their players. Let's see who reigns supreme in the end. All right, coming up next here on Rivals Down South, keep it locked because we've got some just classic good Texas A&M weirdness. Keep it locked. More Rivals coming up next. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South, youtube.com/Watch Stadium. T-Bob A-Bear, AJ McCarron. This is A&M. Look at Texas A&M. Introducing Mike Elko as their head coach. A bunch of old, awkward white people swaying side to side doesn't scream national championship. I don't know what will. Actually, okay, look. To be fair here, AJ, everybody's going to tell you this is cultish behavior, okay? But we already know that, right? we already, everybody knows that. Everybody makes the joke. Like, we're good to, we know that's Texas A&M. I actually like this. I remember going to a Texas A&M game in 7th grade. I think they all did this at the end of the 3rd quarter. It looked absolutely insane. Is it weird? Yes. But I think, to me, it's kind of some of the weirdness that makes college football great. I don't want to be a part of it. I'd be embarrassed to be, okay? And I love making fun of it. But I like people who are unabashedly themselves, just knowing they're going to get made fun of. And maybe that's my nerd background or whatever. They know they're weird. They know they're going to get made fun of, and they still lean into it.
Listen, A&M as a whole is just different, right? The pep rally they do before home games might be one of the strangest things. And the fact that they pack it out, that whole side of the stadium is just packed. It blows my mind. They do some strange things there. But listen, I'm happy for Coach Elko, but I don't see him winning there and it getting any better.
Okay, so you don't really. I actually kind of like it. Well, I think this is a high floor. Not sure what the ceiling is.
Yeah, I just think from a recruiting standpoint, it's not a great place to recruit. You got Texas coming into the SEC, and then Oklahoma as well. I think who they recruit better in Texas. I think A&M's third there.
We'll see. Money. Look, money talks. We all know what walks. Bevo's crap. All right, y'all have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. T-Bob and AJ back with more Rivals Down South. See you then.